Okay, if you're thinking about buying a Porsche 911, I actually want to share a few things that nobody really told me before I bought mine. Now, don't get me wrong, I totally love this car. I probably would buy it all over again. But looking back, there were a handful of moments where I remember thinking, man, nobody ever talks about this. And I think if you're buying your first 911, you're probably going to experience a lot of the same things. Now, the first few weeks, I gotta be honest, I think I spent way more time thinking about where I was parking than where I was actually going. I remember this one time I took it to Costco. And if you've ever been to Costco, you already know. People are loading carts, kids are running around, doors are flying open. I drove around the parking lot for a few minutes before I finally found a spot way out in the back. I probably walked an extra 5 minutes just to get to the store. Looking back, it was probably overkill. But at that time, I wasn't taking any chances. And I totally believe every new owner goes through that phase where you're just trying to protect a car. Now, the good news is eventually you loosen up a little. But for those first few months, man, you're definitely thinking about it a lot more than you probably expected. This next one caught me completely off guard. Before I got the Porsche, driving was just transportation. After I bought it, I'd actually find reasons to leave the house. No joke. I'd tell my wife I was grabbing coffee, and the next thing I knew, I was 45 minutes from home. No destination, no plan, I just kept driving. And I remember thinking, I finally understand why people love these cars so much. It really wasn't about driving fast. It was just about enjoying the drive. Now, this next one is super interesting. I remember the first time I got caught in the rain. Not a huge storm, just enough to make me think, great, now what? You spend so much time trying to keep the car clean, avoiding bad weather, watching the forecast, that the first time you actually have to drive it in the rain feels like a pretty big deal. Then you realize it's a Porsche. It's actually incredibly planted. And then you start relaxing, and afterwards you laugh because you built it up in your head way more than you needed to. This one was probably the biggest turning point for me. Up until then, the Porsche was just my car. Then I started doing rallies, driving with 20, 30, sometimes even more cars. Completely changes that experience. You're talking to other owners, hearing their stories, seeing different builds, different generations of 911s, which is really cool, different modifications, and you realize the community is just as fun as the car itself. I think that was the moment where ownership became so much bigger than just driving. Before I owned one, I'd always hear people say, I'll probably never sell my 911. Honestly, I never really understood it. Now I do, because after a while, the car just fits into your life. You stop trying to find reasons to own it. It becomes the reason you want to go somewhere. You wake up on a Saturday morning, grab a coffee, take the long way home, and that's enough. No destination, no agenda, just driving. And I honestly think that's why so many people keep these cars for years. So to wrap up, if you're thinking about buying a Porsche 911, my advice is pretty simple. Buy it because you love driving. Because once the excitement of buying it settles down, that's what sticks around. And in my opinion, that's the part really nobody talks about. I'll see you guys on the next one.